Okay, folks, live from New York City, the real Tony Cohen, doing my first ever interview that I've actually conducted, and I'm so grateful and proud as a guy I can really call my friend over in sunny British Columbia.
It is
My
indeed.
friend, Dov Barron. Good morning, Dov. How are you?
Morning, Tony. It's good to be here, mate. I'm great. And I'm probably a lot warmer than you are.
Well, I've got three heaters in my room, so and I won't
See,
tell you what I
this
won't
is the
tell you what
thing.
I'm not wearing below the shirt.
See, this is the thing. People, when I go to New York, people go, "Where do you live?" And I say, "Canada." Oh, it must be so cold up there. Yeah, I don't think so. We are a lot warmer than you are.
Yeah, I've never been to the west of Canada, but I'll tell you this: I don't miss Montreal at this time of year.
No, that's a different story altogether.
When people complain about the cold, I just point north and just tell them to be quiet.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got about an hour here, so there's a couple of things. For those of you who don't know, Dom, I'm actually having to refer to my own notes here because we'll go back to the basics. But what I want to tell you about Dov, and I'm referring to notes because there's so much, I don't even know where to start, and he knows more than me, obviously. He's the world's leading authority on authentic leadership. And if you don't know what that means, that's fine. Nor do many people. I'm not sure, but I feel Dov is open to sharing. He has been named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers, private mentor to industry, media, sports leaders, best-selling author, new book Fiercely Loyal, hitting the shelves February 17th. Okay, I'm just hoping you have my current address, Dov, so that I get, oh, okay, a quick free plug. Okay, I'm hoping you have.
Mentioned it, mate.
I get agoraphobia in bookstores. I can't go in there, so any gift is always welcome. Does it trump this one?
It's a different focus.
Okay. And Dov has also connected me with a lot of wonderful people, totally selflessly, sometimes by accident, sometimes intentionally, and that's made a massive difference on a lot of things. Before we met, I've used a lot of Dov stuff, not realizing it was the same stuff, and now taking it to another level, it's the one thing I refer people to straight away. And I've worked with, you name it, the who's who of personal development. Anything else? #1 Fortune 500 podcast on iTunes, millions of downloads. In Dov's own words, blah 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 at the end of it. So
That is my words.
where to start? Where to start? So Dov, I'm going to fire a couple of questions off at you. You've never done one of these before, am I
No,
correct?
I've never been on a Google Hangout. I'm a Google Hangout virgin.
Okay, I'll be gentle with you.
Please.
Okay, put it badly. Uh,
Please
so,
don't not do a cheat to mill special on me.
oh dear. I just had a strange vision in my head that I'm not going to play out on here. So, for those of you who don't know Dov and myself, I would think the word or the term PC is not in either of our vocabulary. So, seriously, guys, I have no idea what's going to happen here. I've never conducted an interview before. Dov's never done a hangout before. There's no prep, there's no script, there's no nothing, and there's no barriers. So I'll tell you right now, if there's a chance you may be easily offended, do not watch this. Switch it off. Okay? I have no idea what's coming, and I have no control over the other side in Canada. Actually, I have no control over myself either. So
That's closer to the truth.
what happened. So Dov, real quickly, where did it all start?
Well, my mother had these contraction pains. That's where it all started. And, but actually, in truth, my father was on top of my mother, but we probably don't want to go that far back, right?
I've not seen that video, but I'll take your word for it.
It is on YouTube.
Oh, no.
Well, as you said, this is my first Google Hangout. It's about my I don't know, probably in the tens of thousands of being interviewed, but this is different because, as you said, you and I have become friends over the years. And where did it all start? At the level of me being a teacher, where did it all start? Officially, it started 31 years ago. Was the first time I taught a class 31 years ago in Perth, Western Australia, where I lived at the time. And I was sharing things with people I knew about the things I'd been studying. I'd been studying psychology, quantum physics, and metaphysics. Quantum physics I just started into about then. It was a couple of years into it. And I was talking to people about things I knew, and people were like, why don't you put on a course? I was like, a course? Why the hell would I do that? I don't know a course. And somebody said, just, if we come over to your house, will you teach us? And I was like, okay, come over on Monday night. And so for 6 weeks on a Monday night, I created a course on the quantum physics of reality, right? And that's what I started talking about, how your psychology and quantum physics tie together and how that all works. And that's how it began 31 years ago.
So I'll tell you right now that the quantum physics is the rabbit hole of all rabbit holes.
It is indeed.
In terms of it is really is. I mean, the first time I saw it was on a book years ago. Some guy was reading, and I just thought he was a whack job. I had no idea what it was.
Sure.
And he was a construction worker. I'm just thinking, like, is he reading this to impress someone? Because my mental thought on physics was some old guy in a suit in a classroom somewhere in Manchester talking to me about, stuff. Obviously, it made a massive impression, but stuff I can't even remember.
Of course.
This is different stuff. So,
That's one of the things I used to say to people all the time is when I say the word physics, most people become donuts. Their eyes glaze over. Yep. They just because we went to school and it was a boring subject. But now we understand how we interface with quantum physics at a very real level. It's fascinating. Let me just tell you how I got into quantum physics, because this is a great insight. I was living in Perth, Western Australia. A friend of mine invited me to go to a stag party in Melbourne. So we got to fly, several thousand miles to go to Melbourne to go to a stag party. Okay, I'll go. I'm already into psychology. I'm already into metaphysical study, but I'm going to go to that. And it's just a night out with the lads, actually a weekend with the lads. So I go over there, and we are in Melbourne going through the old market, which is a fantastic market. And I sort of wander off and find a secondhand bookstore. Love secondhand bookstores. I don't know about you guys, but I love that. So I'm mooching around, and I grab a book, and another book comes out with it. So I look at the book that fell out as I'm about to hand it back, and it's Hugh Everett III's Multidimensional Reality. This is a quantum physics book made for physicists. So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, because I've conceptualized multiple reality before. So I start reading this book. Now, I should be absolutely clear in saying I went to King David School in Cheetham Hill, and I quit very early because I was bored out of my freaking mind. And so my level of scientific math was, that would be a large exaggeration of how big it was. So it was crap. I didn't know. Every other page in this book was a physics equation. So half the book I could not read, and half of what I could read I didn't understand, but I was engrossed. I was sucked right into that book. That book was like, wow, I was just fascinated by this. And I was like, and so I bought the book and I left, and we went to that night, and usual thing, go out to the pub, everybody got drunk, all the boys. They come back home. Remember, this is the early 80s when we had something called blue movies that were played on on a, what was it, 8mm projector, click, 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 click. And of course it always looked like there was pubic hair all over the screen because they always had those little lines on there. It was terrible. So these guys are all watching this blue movie, right, watching some porn, and I sneak out of the room and I find a place in the kitchen with a little lamp, and I'm still reading my book. At some point, somebody realizes Dove's missing, and they think, oh, he must have found something good. So they come looking for me. They leave the porn on, and they come looking for me, and there's me, hunched in a corner over this little light, reading this quantum physics book, completely consumed, and that was it. For me, I was completely, like, I got to understand this. I got to understand the science of this. how this works, and that was the beginning, and that was Jesus, that was early mid-1980s, and that became, like I said, I just started consuming quantum physics and starting going to professors and asking and trying to understand, and of course I was dumber than a stick around the subject and just wanted to get it.
Cool. No, by the way, I hope you've caught up with your pornography by now. I mean, it's so much easier these days.
No, I've still got an anal projector in the bathroom.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah. Incidentally, it's kind of you hit on something there. We met originally through Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So these people think, you know what, Facebook's full of idiots. Well, you know, if Facebook's full of idiots, you want to look.
We're not excluded from that.
Yeah, just to go off on a tangent. But if your Facebook's full of idiots, so is your real life probably. So I think we found out 2 or 3 years later. We actually went to the same school.
Yeah.
And
you were there around the same time as one of my younger brother, but because of course you're a lot younger than me, as you can tell by the amount of hair that Tony has.
Obviously, don't let this fool you. This is my. I lent Donald Trump my syrup, my wig.
Donald Trump, your orangutan wig.
So yeah, we went to the same school, but I didn't go to the high school part of it. I went to a grammar school, but I did exactly the same as you. I was bored shitless and bailed out.
Right.
Wasn't for me. So, you know, if you mention anything that sounds remotely like a school subject to me, I kind of, boom, I blank out, just like that. Yeah. So, but let's just start from there. So tell us about your childhood.
You on crack? Are you on crack?
When you were a child, was it? I don't know.
Well, actually, I grew up in a place called Lower Broughton, which I know you'll know, Tony, but most people won't know, which in fact was a ghetto within a ghetto. So Lower Broughton was whatever, you know, and you think about wherever you live and you think about that crappy part of town, that's where we lived. We were extremely poor. Lower Broughton was inside Salford, and that has a whole other category to it as well. Some good bands have come out of there, like Oasis, but nonetheless, it was pretty rough, and that is in the area of Manchester. We were very poor. My mum usually worked at least 2 jobs. My dad took off when I was about 7. It was pretty rough in all kinds of ways, but you know, the ways that were I think are most relevant is that I grew up around abject poverty. I grew up around violence, alcoholism, and abusive behavior, whether that was mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical. I grew up around all of that, and I had no concept of anything other than that. And I can clearly remember sitting on the curb, playing with tar in the cobbled street on a sunny day as it bubbled up. I mean, you know, that was your kind of your entertainment. But there was a place that was like 3 streets over from where we lived, and it was called Bury New Road, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Tony, which was kind of this main thoroughfare that went through Salford to Manchester. And I remember that occasionally I would just sort of sit on a stoop there and look out. And I remember quite clearly looking out and watching the cars go by and thinking about the cars that I like. Now, I'm not a big, even to this day, I'm not a big car guy, but there are certain cars that I do like. But I remember that one day, I think it probably was 9, this big American car came down the street. Now, on the English roads, a big American car is like imagining a car double size, comes down the road, and I remember thinking how rich that person must be, that they could drive this big car. And that was sort of my first glimpse of the idea that somebody could be other than what I was surrounded by. Because one of the things I've said for years is normal isn't healthy. Normal's whatever you grew up with. Normal is just whatever you grew up with, you've made that normal. And so poverty, violence, crime, abuse, all those things were normal because I grew up around them. You don't question it when you grow up around it. And And so to suddenly see this big American car and wealth going by, it was like, oh, there's something else. And it was like a glimpse, as you say, through the rabbit hole. It was a glimpse into another dimension, into another reality that was potentially possible. And that led me to when I was, excuse me, when I was 10, I remember walking into the living room. My mom was crying. Not an unusual thing at that time, but my mom was crying. And being the eldest son, I feel this compulsion to say, what's wrong, Mom? And my mom's like wiping her tears away and pushing her glasses up, and she looking at I can see the TV, and she's looking at it, and she points to it, and I said, what? And she says, he's dead. Who? And I look at the TV, and I see this black guy on the TV, and I think, well, he's not a pop star, and he's not a movie. I don't know him. And it was Martin Luther King. It was actually, I was 10 years old, and Martin Luther King died, and I couldn't grasp why my mother was crying about an American man, which for us, as you know, was the other side of the world. It was, it wasn't across the pond. It was another universe. Why she would be impacted by the death of this black man. Here she is, a Jewish woman living in at that time, Cheetham Hill. I don't get it. And I asked my uncle, who was very knowledgeable, and I asked him about him, and he told me about Martin Luther King and peaceful resistance and how he was inspired by Gandhi. And that was the spark of awakening in me for you can make a difference to people's lives who are not in front of you, not eyeball to eyeball with you. Now remember, this is pre-internet. So before all that, and it's like, wow. So I became fascinated with this idea that there was another world, remember the big American car, and that you could have influence, you could have impact, you could make a difference in somebody's life, even if they weren't right in front of you. Because I already had the sense at 10 years old that I could do that, but I didn't know I could do it in a grand scale. And that was my original inspiration. Didn't know that would lead me to be a speaker, but I know now that that was my inspiration to be a speaker, was from Martin Luther King. Then at 14 years old, I was, again, I say I was a weird kid like I'm not weird now. I was a weird kid in that my mates were all watching cartoons and watching stuff on TV that I just wasn't interested in. As you may remember, Tone, originally there was 3 channels in England: ITV, BBC One, and BBC Two. That was it. And BBC Two was the highbrow station, where they would, and it was fabulous because they would hold Shakespeare plays, and they would, they'd do Othello on TV as a play. I mean, it was wonderful. But they did history and they did thoughtful stuff. And I loved BBC Two. My mother used to say it was weird because I just watched BBC Two. And then one day she came in on a Sunday afternoon, and I was watching BBC Two on my own, and there was a documentary on. And it was, strangely enough, there was no words. It was just images. And it was the images of this couple traveling across this country, but it was filmed in 4 seasons. And so I didn't know where it was. And my mom came in, and she said, what are you watching? And I said, this. She said, what is it? And I said, I think it's America. And she says, yeah. And I said, yeah. I said, I'm going there. I was 14. And she goes, when? Like, she's laughing. When? Right? Getting the number 6 bus down Cheetham Hill Road. I was like, no, I'm going. I don't know when, but I'm going. Now, in truth, it wasn't America, actually. It was Canada. Because the final scenes were actually shot in Vancouver, where the totem poles are. And I know that now, but I didn't know that then. And so, that idea had become implanted. It had become part of my quantum field, was that there's a bigger world, the big American car. There's another reality beyond what I know. You can make a difference in people's lives without being eyeball to eyeball to them. That was now planted into my field. And that this decision that I was getting out of this shithole that I lived in, and I was going to go to America, which is what I thought it was, but it was Canada. That was in my field. And at 21, I made the decision that I was getting out of the country, and I began to travel and study, and I went to many different countries and studied with many great teachers, quantum physics, metaphysics, and psychology. And guess where I ended up? In that place that I planted in my quantum field at 14 years old.
Cool.
So that's the Reader's Digest version.
It's interesting because when you tell that story, it's kind of triggering things in myself. Where, again, I went through the big car phase for a while with all the, you name it, I've owned it. But growing up, same thing. It was just me and my dad, my mum died when I was 7. I didn't, it wasn't the abuse or the alcohol thing or anything like that. However, we come very much from the same area. I wasn't really privy to that. Don't think it occurred in my little circle, but I do understand that, the simple things of growing up, like playing in the mud or all the rest of it. This is not a poverty thing; it's just a reality that sometimes certain things awaken. And you mentioned there, you remember very distinctly the American car going down Berry New Road. For me, and my dad used to tell people, if you ever remember, there used to be something called Ladybird books. You ever remember them?
Yeah.
And they used to always bring one out on cars. And my dad's proudest thing was, at 3 years old, he could name every car on the road, which I guess I could.
Right.
But I remember I had a wealthy uncle, and I was at my cousin's, who was about 6 months older than me, at his birthday party, and my uncle had something called a Mark 10 Jag, which was like a huge thing.
I remember Mark 10 Jags, man.
Huge front. So, like, compared to a normal car, these things stood out. And I was allowed to sit in the driver's seat of the Mark 10 Jag. And I just remember to this day, 4 dials in the middle, the big ones there, the wood, the leather.
All walnut wood around it.
Yeah. And, like, certain things just trigger. And I don't know what it was. I've never had a Mark 10 Jag. I've had plenty of Jags. But there was some, like a little trigger. And just with you telling that story there, it just, it's there. It's in the subconscious. All of a sudden, I remember that. Then shortly after that, the same uncle bought a Rolls Royce, the big one, Silver Cloud or something, the old one.
Yeah.
My dad always referred to him as the only one in the family with a Rolls Royce. And so I kind of got that thing that, the super wealthy as it was would have a Rolls Royce, or if you were the Lord Mayor. But I also remember just a very thing, and on the same car thing, where because I was such a car nut back then, and in reality, I think we had a Ford Anglia or something very, very basic.
An angle box.
An angle box, yeah. I remember my dad spraying it with something in the garage to make it a different colour. Why he need to change the colour of his car overnight is beyond me, but let's not go there. I just remember one day, and it was walking past a store in Prestwich or Whitefield, suburban, little bit up from Cheetham Hill, and all the windows were all greened out. They were just green, and there was another Rolls Royce. You very, very rarely saw them. Very rarely. There was another Rolls Royce, and the license plate was DEM4. And I remember asking my dad, "Whose is that?" And he went, "Well, that's the guy that owns that shop." And I went, "Okay." And he says, "I'm going to give you a bit of advice here." These are things that just popped up now.
Yeah.
If you ever see any of his customers coming out and getting in a Rolls Royce, go in the shop. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. And my dad was not a wealthy guy by a long way. And it's just little things and little triggers, and I had to get that out. You just kind of, you reawaken something there. So.
Well, I just want to jump in for a minute, Tony, because I want, you and I are having this conversation, but we also have to consider there are other people listening, and I want to share something with people because I think it's important. I talked about those things that became events in my life that became planted in my unconscious mind and part of my field, and that triggered things in you. But here's the thing that I want everybody to understand, and this, and if you've got a pen and paper, write this down because this is important stuff. You think that it's easy to think that your life is just happening. It's easy to think that you're making choices. I'll tell you something. I had a personal development company for almost 30 years, and I'll tell you really clearly, most people won't like this, by the way, and I'm probably going to offend a few people, and that's all right. But I'll tell you something. Most of you have never made a bleeding choice, never made a choice in your fucking life. You've never made an actual choice, because an actual choice would require you to not react, to not go, oh, it's black or it's white, it's left or it's right or it's wrong. It means I'm actually going to take in all the information and make a conscious choice. Most people, they think they do that. They don't actually do that. They just do right, wrong, left, right. Here's the thing. is my point into what we were talking about. When I saw the car go down the road, I didn't know that that would have impact on my life. When I saw Martin Luther King, there was no conscious understanding that that was going to impact my life. When I saw that documentary, I had no idea that that was going to impact my life. See, we have these moments in our lives and we go, oh my God, that's such an awakening. Like, I've got it, Doug. You said this to me. I read your book. I've read Don't Read This, Your Ego Won't Like It 15 times. I've had so many awakenings. You know what I say? I don't care. You go, what? I don't care. That's a really bad thing to say, Doug. This is your book. No, it's not. I don't care how many aha moments you have. Because I'll tell you something. You'll know this, Tony, too. How many aha moments have you had? You probably can't even count them. But how many aha moments have you had where you did something? Because most of us have aha moments and then we get a chance to go brag to our friends about how fucking brilliant we are because we've had this insight. You don't need aha moments. You need fuck it moments. Moments where you go, no, that's it. I'm done. I'm doing something else. That's what I had at 21. That's why I got out of the UK. Believe me, I'd had plenty of ahas, but it came to a moment where I had to go, no, I will suffocate if I stay here. I will die. That's what moves people. But all that other stuff, once I've got that impetus, once I've got that fire, once I've got that movement forward, it's the things that I've placed in my unconscious mind that now start showing up. So most people think that they can manifest. People either think they have no control of their lives or they think they can manifest because they bought into this crazy-ass idea called the law of attraction. It's horseshit. It's wishful thinking. Nothing more. If you don't understand how the unconscious works, then you're just wishing. But if you understand how the unconscious works and you go through the process of doing that, you can actually manifest things. Now, let me tell you something. I'm a pretty conscious guy. I've been doing this a long time. Starting my journey actually at 6. However, I will tell you that I probably consciously manifest about 30% of my reality. Consciously. Most people, it is 0.000000001%. It's like incredibly small. Because we don't understand that manifestation, nothing is showing up in your life that's new. It's history that's showing up. And if you don't pay attention to that, you're a victim. Oh, this is happening to me again. You become a whining moo who's not paying attention. The truth is, it's all the same stuff showing up until you pay attention and actually learn it. But learning it is not an aha. It's a fuck it moment where you go, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. Whatever that is. I'm going to do this. There's a conscious choice to do something different. And so when I went back to the UK, and you probably had this experience, Tone, when I went back, I met lots of people who were there saying they were going to leave when I was going to leave, and they're still sitting in the same pub in Eccles, drinking pints of Boddington Bitter, bitching about the weather, bitching about the soccer, bitching about the fish and chips, bitching about the pub, bitching about the union, just bitching. And I walk in and they go, this is what actually happened to me. This guy said to me, he was asking me where I was from, where I'd been. It's the guy I used to drink in the pub with, and he just says to me one day, this is a weird comment, he says to me, Dov, your shirts were always wider than ours. I said, my shirts were always whiter than yours? What does that mean? He goes, there was always like something brighter about you. And I said, do you want to know what that was? His name was Gary. I said, you know what that was, Gary? He goes, what? I said, fire. I said, all you guys are fire, but you take that fire out by punching somebody in the head. You take that fire out by screaming, Man United, and getting all excited when somebody's going to score, or upset when they don't. I said, well, I took that fire, I didn't put it into me bitching, moaning, and complaining, or putting it into a team. Most people are putting most of their passion into a religion or a football team instead of putting it into their life. I said, my fire, that light that made my shirts brighter, to use your term, that was me saying, I'm on fire. And I'm not doing this. I've got a bigger purpose, a bigger mission, and I didn't know what it was. I just knew I couldn't be with what it was, the way my life was at that time. And I'm sure there's a lot of that triggered in you, Tom, because you got out.
Yeah.
And we know lots of people don't.
You know, it's a very similar path. Again, I was back there, but it was in my early 20s. And, you know, back then, the economy was for shit. There was no work. You had to, like, hustle and find whatever you could. And just, you know, it was literally like the rain cloud was over the whole place.
Yep.
And a guy that just started in business for the year before in a roofing business, months later, just one day over breakfast, just said, oh, by the way, I'm emigrating to Canada. So I went, well, what about this business? Oh, it's yours. You know what? I'm not the roofing guy. I'm the guy that gets customers. Oh, you'll figure it out. And literally within a week, it was gone. Mm-hmm. About a month or two later, he called me. He said, you got to get over here. The streets are paved with gold, blah, 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 blah. And within, I want to say within 2 days, I was there. It was just like, fuck it. Exactly that. And
yeah, a fuck it moment.
A few times, and the pushback you get from, we'll call them the comfort zone people, telling you why it won't work, or why you're stupid, or why you're an idiot, or you'll be back in 2 weeks, it won't work. For me personally, is, and some guys that work with me close know how to push my buttons, is as soon as you tell me it won't work or I can't do it, I go into that fucking place, sometimes to my own detriment of proving them wrong.
Yep.
Sometimes to my own detriment. As I get older, I'm learning sometimes that I don't need to prove anyone wrong. I don't fucking care anymore.
Right.
But there's been times in my life exactly that where I've just gone a conscious decision based upon subconscious implants, we'll call it.
Yep.
And just, you know, there's decisions where I've gone, okay, do I keep my comfortable life with my nice car, my nice apartment, or do I just stack it all on red and throw the dice because some guy said, hey, I've had a good idea on the other side of the planet. I need you to pack your shit, move, and get over here right now. And I've just gone, yeah, makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I was in the UK, I went for a week. I lasted 2 days, changed my flight, and got out of there. And this is not just a UK thing. Don't get me wrong. This is a world thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's certain parts of the world where I get a great feel about people. BC is one of them. Austin, Texas, I get a really good vibe from people. There's a few places where I just get really good vibes from people. So I do also think that our geographical demographic has something to do with it.
Well, we are a product of the resonance we are surrounded with. So this is really important to know. And this is why, as you know, if you actually do a general consensus, particularly in the working class socioeconomic background, you'll discover that most people don't leave. Now, the argument would be, well, they don't have the money to leave. Well, if that's the case, why do the people who do leave, how do they leave? And that is that they have enough impetus, they have enough passion, they have enough fire, enough pain to say they're going to get the money to leave. And that's what I did. I didn't leave with a lot of money, and I'm sure you didn't either. But we just went, okay, we got to get out. We are a product of that resonance. If you know, the old saying is, if you lie down with pigs, you get up smelling of
shit. Exactly.
So that's, you know, that old sort of saying is the truth. At a resonance level, we're surrounded by people, and this is what I'm saying about people not making choices. We're surrounded by people. We take on the belief systems. You know, as you know in the book, it says, you know, if you didn't choose it, it's not yours. Most people's belief systems are not chosen. They go, I'm Jewish. Why? Because you fell out of a Jewish vagina, that makes you Jewish? No, it doesn't. Well, I'm Catholic. Why? Because you fell out of a Catholic vagina, that makes you... No. I'm American. Why? Because you fell out of a vagina in America? That doesn't make you American. You know, that's not a choice. That's not a choice. The choice is a different process. And we are surrounded by this environment that just make us think that this is the way it is. And so, you know, what you're saying there to me is really important for everybody to pay attention to, is that you're surrounded by an environment that supports the beliefs you have, especially the limiting ones. And when you make the decision to do something else, you're interfering with their belief system, so of course they're going to come back at you with fire. So you go, I'm leaving here, I'm going to go there, and they go, you're crazy. It happened to me when I left the UK, it happened to me when I left Australia. When I left Australia, I moved to Western Canada. Here's how it worked. I was living in Australia, had a very successful business, had tons of great friends, had all kinds of good stuff going on for me. And I said, I'm moving to Canada. And somebody said to me, okay. And what happened? Well, I've been meditating on what's the next thing, and this is what came up. You moved to Canada. Okay. Where are you going? This guy I'm talking to is my travel agent, but he's also been a student. He goes, where are you going? I go, West Coast Canada. He goes, okay, where do you want to go? I said, I don't know. Pick it. I said, I don't know what's on the West Coast of Canada. He goes, there's Calgary, there's Edmonton, and there's Vancouver. I go, pick it. You'll pick the right one. He goes, I don't feel good about that. I said, just pick it. He goes, okay, when are you coming back? I go, I'm not. He goes, who do you know there? No one. Do you have work? No. Are you mad? What about your friends? What about? And then that list comes. And that list, by the way, for all of you knowing this, that list is their justification for staying where they are, projected onto you. You've got to get this. Because when you step forward to take a chance in your life, you step into a new business, you step into a new life or something you're going to do, you're going to get that coming at you. But it's not about you. It's their list of why they have to stay stuck. And you are interfering with that. You're creating what's called an interference wave with what they are sitting at. And it upsets them. So you may think that they're putting you down. They're not. They're justifying their position. Don't take it personally. They're just justifying why they have to be where they are because they can't make that choice. And this is a really important piece.
So, on that point, I find that very interesting because it's the first time I've kind of heard it explained like that, and it just throws me into the saying when someone tells you something can't be done, it actually means they can't do it.
Yep.
But then the other thing, and I'm sure you get this 5 or 6 times a week. Oh, you're so lucky to be living in New York City, Vancouver, by the water. You're so lucky to be in Cancun. I think it was the other week. You're so lucky. Yeah, I'm lucky. I accidentally fell into a cab that accidentally took me to an airport, and just by chance, there was a ticket with my name on, and hey, here I am. I'm so lucky. And I'm like, there's times I used to want to bang my head through the wall, and now I just went, there's no luck involved.
No.
It's, and again, like yourself, I've moved around with, when I moved to Texas, I knew one person.
Right.
In all of the Texas. When I moved to New York, I knew one person. That's it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't even occur to me. If I've got to move if I decide tomorrow to move to Peru,
Right.
what? I don't know anyone. Doesn't matter. You could drop me in the middle of a jungle. I'll figure it out. If that's from me and that's what I want to do, I'm going to do it. And it's, other people's perceptions are not my reality.
No.
So
but the people listening in, watching us right now, might be going, well, yeah, but I'm not like Tony, but I'm not like Dov. They're the kinds of guys who can get up and do that. That's not true. Let me be really clear with you. As a little kid, I was terrified. I spent most of my young childhood being a very scared kid. I was highly sensitive. I was an artist and a poet, right, in Salford. Right? That's like saying I'm the Pope and I'm hanging out with the Taliban. Or better still, I'm the head of the rabbinical movement hanging out with the Taliban. It's just not a good mix, right? I mean, I got my ass kicked on a regular basis. This was not because I was this courageous, powerful person. Yes, I get that I'm that now, but that's built. That's learned and built. But it was not natural for me. It's the thing that people don't understand is there are two things in life that will move you: pain and pleasure. Pleasure moves you short term. Pain moves you long term. And we do our best to move away from pain. Don't move away from pain. I know this sounds crazy. Don't move away from pain. Accumulate it so it becomes a fuel so you can have a fuck it moment. So you can say, no more. There's something better. Despite what everybody else is saying. Because every time somebody gives you that other argument, that's a little pain in the other direction. You go, okay, well, I don't want to leave this person behind. I don't want to feel bad about leaving my mom, my dad, whoever it is. No, no. You got to stack the pain. This is not because Tony is this powerful, courageous man or Dove is. This is about making, like, allowing yourself to grasp there's something else, something bigger. But you're always going to face resistance. And if you don't like resistance, you're not going to move. You've got to embrace that resistance. When Tony invites you into his business, you're going to have resistance in your own head. That resistance in your head is one of two things. It's either true, or it's a compounded set of other people's projections that you're carrying around. If it's your rejection, great, do not do it. If it's genuinely yours. But if you go, oh, my mother wouldn't like it, my brother won't like it, my mom will think I'm daft, my uncle will think I'm crazy, my best friend will think I've gone mental, my cousin will think I've joined a cult, screw it. If you know what it is, because here's the thing, luck is preparation, it is courage, and it is relationships. If you want to be a, quote, person with good luck, do what Tony and I do. And that is, because I know Tony does this, because that's how we have a relationship, is we are both number one focused relationships. Meet people. Get out there. Meet people. Have the courage to do the things that scare the crap out of you. If you feel, got to do this, but I have the resistance. Oh my God, I don't know if I can do it. If that part of you says, I should do this, I know there's something in this, but I'm scared, you got to do that. Put the relationships with courage, and the prep is, see if you can find out something about that person that you have in common. Pick up the phone, like Tony says, pick up the phone, call them. It's never been easier than it is today. Do whatever it takes to reach out to people. Luck is preparation, it is courage, but more than anything, it is relationships. It is relationships. So when they say to me, I'm lucky, you're lucky, like you just said, I didn't fall into a cab. I didn't get to the airport and go, oh, here's a ticket for you. Enjoy. It doesn't work like that. You've got to have the courage to make the decision.
Something you said there kind of resonated with me about being the oddball. And I was the quiet kid. And we actually found out, I'm pretty sure we found out we went to the same school by both being put on some group.
Some group, yeah. But neither of us are in it anymore. I think we got banned.
What are you doing on there? You're Canadian. You didn't go there. And I felt the same thing. How's this work? This is after we've been talking, 2 or 3 years. And so we're on this group, but there's something that on that group, people are putting these old, and it's a school thing, growing up in this Manchester, blah, 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 blah. And there's a picture on this thing, like the classroom picture. And this girl is, well, I remember everyone in the classroom. Well, I'm on that picture. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. I know everyone on that picture. Okay. Who's the guy there with the, right in the middle, with the Donald Duck on his T-shirt? I don't remember him. That's how much of an impression I made at school. I was the quiet, timid guy. I was embarrassed that my mum had passed away. I was embarrassed that I didn't have any brothers and sisters. I was embarrassed to the point of, I couldn't even say my own name.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like scared shitless through school. I grew up smaller than most. By the time I got to high school, I guess as we call it here, like 11 years old, 12 years old.
11 o'clock, yeah.
11 o'clock, yeah, it was a long day. And, I got picked on there for various reasons. Religion, which, don't get me started on that whole thing, but religion was one of them, being one of like 5 Jewish kids in 90. And there were other reasons, and who knows what it was. And I grew up like that. So by the time I got into adulthood, I was still like that. And, it's picture the scene. You're out with your buddies at the club or the bar, and there's girls dancing and everything. The one guy left at the end of every day was always me, because I wouldn't speak to anyone. Yeah.
Me too.
We should have gone to the same club and had a bet on that.
At least we could have talked to each other.
Okay, I'm not going there with you, man. And then now, I speak with people about connecting and building relationships all the time. I'm the guy that went from 0 to 5,000 phone numbers in a phone in 2 years in a strange city. How do you do it? I just talk to people. Anyone. I don't care. I don't prejudge. I just talk to it. And it doesn't matter to me if they're picking up the garbage or the CEO. I treat everyone exactly the same. And, you know, oh, New York, it's, no, New York's about the friendliest place on earth. Because we don't drive, you're constantly in communication with anyone, any random stranger. And all I do is I talk to people. I find common ground. I'm not looking for it. I just find it. It could be someone on the subway reading a book. And I, you know, as a big reader, I'm kind of curious. But a lot of the times I've read the books, and I'll just say, oh, you know what? Have you got to chapter 3 yet? Chapter 3, strike up a conversation, and it could be anything at all. Or they could have the yoga mats with them, and I start chatting with them about yoga. And before you know it, you know what? Let's grab a coffee sometime. And I just stick the phone in the hand. Just stick your number in there.
Right.
Because I'm not coming across, and this is something, and maybe you can elaborate on this. Because I'm not coming across as wanting something from them, as just being, you know, I'm not trying to pick you up like a stalker and get you for a coffee and put a roofie in it. I'm just having a conversation. You know, the next day I'll do it, I'll send a text, and the next day I'll just put great chatting with you. And I leave it at that. And sometimes 6 months later something will happen, or they're on my face, or whatever, and something comes of it. But I don't go chasing the relationship. I connect, you know, I've learned over the years, and there's simple techniques on connecting, that once you become selfless at it, where you're connecting for no specific reason, as opposed to being the most annoying guy in the room, just looking to connect. I'm not looking to connect. It just, when it becomes second nature, when it becomes subconscious to just chat with people and, oh, yeah, just stick your number in there. And when that shift happens, and as I say, maybe you can elaborate on this, all of a sudden life becomes a lot easier through the relationship building, because I'm not building it with an ultimate game in mind. You know, I'm not speaking for you, but never once have we spoke where I've ever felt, and you know, and I've got to thank you for connecting with our good friend Darren. I've got to do that publicly, Darren Littleday. You connected me with him, but I got the same. He was one of your students. Have I got that correct?
Actually, Darren worked for me as my marketer for about 1.5 years, and he was also a student of mine and studied my materials, including Equation for Manifestation and some other stuff. So he studied my stuff, worked for me as a marketer for about 1.5 years.
So my take from both of you guys was, you know, I've been speaking with Darren for a couple of years. You just randomly connected with me, just said you should talk with this guy. It's like, you know, I do the same thing. No ulterior motives, just you should talk to this guy, do you some good. Could be a plumber. You know what, I've got a leak. You know what, talk to this guy.
Exactly.
And but the same thing came across is selfless connecting and selfless relationship building. And even though, you know, you're in business, I'm in business, Darren's in business, and I want to feel it's the same, it's been reciprocal from me. There's been no attempt to impose on anyone's life with I'm connecting for this reason. Like these freaking, some of these network marketing guys that, you know, say hello, and then the next thing, listen, I've been involved in the industry, and the next thing, they're literally just trying to ram stuff down your throat without building a relationship.
Yeah.
So, you know, so if you're going to elaborate on that, not specifically on that industry, but how would, you know, I don't know how it happened. It just happened.
Right.
When at the point at which I'm just connecting to connect, and I'm just happy to go have a coffee with someone and shoot the shit. There was a transition for me somewhere.
Right. There's an ebook, you can go and search it online. You'll find it. It's actually on Amazon for $40 or something, but you can, if you search around, you'll find places you can download it for free. And it's an ebook I wrote called The 5 Foundations of Building Wealth from the Inside Out. 5 Foundations Building Wealth from the Inside Out. It's an ebook, and one of the chapters in there is about becoming genuinely relational. And this is an extension of what we're speaking about here, Tony. Genuinely relational means that you are in relationship for the purpose of serving. So what that means is, you know this, Tony, because it would have been there in our first few conversations, whether you remember it or not. It's in every first or several conversations that I have with people, and that is, if there's some way I can serve you, let me know. I know a lot of people. If you need a plumber, I probably know one. If you need somebody to connect you with somebody in this or that, I probably know that person. And if I don't, I know somebody who does know. So I'm willing to be of service. And and oftentimes we don't get to talk about what I do. The problem is that most people show up and they want to tell you what they do, and so that you'll buy into their stuff. And you've got to come at it from being genuinely relational, which is to put that to the back and be willing to say, I'm going to serve this person. So you go in with the mindset of, how can I serve this person? What do you need, and how can I service that? So sometimes it's not about giving them money or doing those kinds of things. All of it is about relationship. And so here's the thing of it. That's the, if you will, the intentional truth of it is, I'm here to serve. Now let me tell you the business of it. The business and the psychology of it is, there's a law called the law of reciprocity. It's a psychological law, meaning we can't help but do it. And that is, if you do something for somebody, they feel an impulse to do something for you. You're not, now this is really important, do not do it for that reason. You have to do it for the reason of service. But I'll tell you something, I have had people come back to me 2 years later, 10 years later. I had one person 10 years later who've shown up and go, you know, you did this and this and this for me. And I was like, really? I don't remember. And they go, yeah, and I just wanted to connect you with this person. And that's been worth $50,000 to me. From a simple conversation and a simple saying, hold on a minute, let me just contact this person. Now I'm going to walk you through a technique that I teach for those of you watching. And that is this. If you go to a network meeting, you know, there's horrible network meetings where people ram cards at you. God, I don't go to them because they're horrible. But I know a lot of you do as part of your business. But I want to teach you a simple technique. And the technique is this. Shut up. Go up to people and ask them about them. Let them do their pitch, because they will. Let them do their pitch. When they finish their pitch, they're probably going to ask you to buy something or whatever. And just go like this. Well, before we go there, outside of this, how can I be of service to you? What can I help you with? And they go, I don't know what you mean. Well, who do you need to meet? What are you looking for? What is your biggest challenge going on in your life right now? Is your toilet backed up? You need a plumber. Is your roof leaking? You need a roofer. Is your marriage falling apart? You need a counselor. What do you need right now? And it throws people off completely because there's no pitch. And they go, well, actually, it's kind of weird, but yeah, you know, I'm having a problem with my car or whatever it is, or my toilet's backed up. You go, hold on a sec. Now, if you have been relational, as Tony just said, you've built up this list. Immediately, here's what you do. You take out your phone. You call whoever it is you know, or whoever it is you know who knows. And you say, hey, Bob, I've got somebody here with me that I've just recently met. They're having a problem with their car, with their toilet, whatever it is. That's your area, isn't it? Yeah. Do me a favor. Have a word with them, and then hand them your phone. Make the connection direct. Put yourself on the outside and make the connection direct. Let them make that connection directly. Believe me, the next time they will be very grateful to you. They will immediately ask you, well, what do you do? Then you'll tell them without a pitch. You just tell them, and you say, instead of doing a sale, you just say, and if you ever need that, here's my information. Would you like me to put it in your phone? Just what you just said, Tony. Yeah. See, I don't ask. Good idea. Don't ask, do you want my card? Would you like me to put it in your phone? They say, yeah. You put it in, and then you put a note, because there's a place to put notes, and you say, met at XYZ in the month, right? They've got that now. They can remember you. It's right in there. Next time they need whatever it is, or they know somebody who needs whatever it is that you offer, who the hell are they going to go to? Somebody else? No, they're going to go to somebody who did something for them completely without any strings attached. That is the best technique I can teach you for being genuinely relational, but it's a business technique, but it's coming from the place of being genuinely relational. Now, here's the deal. Some of those people will get back to you tomorrow. Some of them get something from you right now, but some of them it'll be 5 years. You're in that phone, and they'll look through. But that name, Tony Cohen, who the hell was Tony Cohen? But that note you put in, oh, I met Tony Cohen last summer on the subway. We talked about this. Oh, I remember that guy. He was that guy with a weird accent and bald head. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, that'd be me.
I know, it was definitely him because it was January and he had shorts on.
That's a whole different hangout for a whole different day, the shorts one. You know, it's what you're saying there, just to a similar thing on that technique. I don't use business cards. I never use them, and I also don't accept them from people. And I tell them the truth, you know. Well, let me give you my card. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I could show you now. I've got a gym bag full of business cards that over the last 2 years, 3 years, that I need to take a picture of, and there's an app that will load them into your phone. I haven't got around to it, and if you give me a business card, I guarantee you I won't be doing any business with you because it's going to go into a pile. It's nothing personal. Here, best way to do it, stick your info in the phone. I'll send you a text and an email right now.
Yeah.
The phone's already open up. They've just got to do this, that, and the other. Right then, when I'm in front of them, the same thing. Tony Cohen, whatever. El Paso restaurant, drinking Pinot Grigio, dancing on the bar with my shirt off.
Right.
Well, maybe. Okay, so now and again. But just the trigger. And in the end, I'll stick it in your phone now. Then the next day, what I do with all of them, if I've got anything that's got my name on an outgoing text, the next morning or the next day, I'll just send a message back saying, hey, great meeting you yesterday.
Right.
You ever want to grab a coffee? And leave it. And leave it. But that whole selflessness thing, it's I know where you're coming from because I'm kind of there. But when I wasn't there, it was all about me and how can this person help me and and there's something, I may have it slightly wrong, something called 7 levels of listening, which maybe you're familiar with. Yep. Most of us listen to respond rather than listen to absorb. So I'm also mindful, Dob, of the time because I did say an hour. So very simple.
And we are at the hour. You're right.
The hour. So I'm going to let you wrap this, then and bounce it back off. Then we'll shut it down. So, so these techniques we've spoke about. So for someone either starting out, rebooting their life, you know, there's a whole bunch of other stuff I want to chat with you about, but you know, I'm mindful of the time. There's someone right now saying, okay, right now I'm right at that fuck it moment. I'm sick and tired of where I'm at, who I'm with, my job, my marriage, my life, the weather, the kids, and it's so overwhelming. What can I do right now?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what to do right now. First thing you're going to do is you got to stack the pain. So stop avoiding the pain. So that glass of wine you want to drink to numb the pain, sitting in front of the telly watching Coronation Street or whatever the hell it is you're watching to numb the pain, stop it. Stop it. Sit in the pain. I know it's counterintuitive. I know that everything in you is looking to numb the pain. Stop it. Sit in the pain. Let it stack up. Let it stack up until you get to a place, because otherwise if you lower the pain, it's like it becomes bearable. You don't want it to be bearable. You have to get it to be unbearable, so you take an action. Number 1, stack the pain. As you're stacking the pain, so you need to, now that's journaling. I'm really upset about this. I hate this. Like and don't be afraid to put down shit that's upsetting. Like don't make it nice. Be uncensored. I'm fucking furious about this. Like, let yourself swear. Let yourself have the fire. Another sheet, another journal, whatever it is. Write down, here's what I want. But don't write I don't want. Write I want. If you write I don't want, then your unconscious mind takes the don't out. And so you say, I don't want to be fat anymore. Well, guess what? Your brain's hearing I want to be fat. So you want to write, I want to be, I'm over here. It says, I'm sick to death of being uncomfortable in my own body. I hate the fact that I'm so overweight and out of shape. Over here, it doesn't say I don't want to be fat anymore. It says I want to be in great shape. And then you write it in the present tense. I am. And you don't say, you don't just stop at I am. You say, I am dedicated to. So the brain hears, the mind hears, I am, present tense. Dedicated to is a fire to move. I am dedicated to, committed to. You can use either of those or both. I am dedicated to and committed to being in wicked good shape. Here's what that means. And then you have to write what things mean. What it means is, what I mean by that is you've got to get the emotional connection. Writing down your goals and your resolutions is a complete waste of time. It's, again, wishful thinking. Who gives a shit? Nothing will change. It's the emotional content. So you've got to find the emotional content of the pain and of the drivers. So I am, present tense, dedicated to and committed to being in wicked shape. And that means this, and you write them down, and then you say, what that means is I can run 5 miles without being out of breath. And then you go, what's the feeling of that? The feeling is exhilaration. Write that down. The feeling is proud of myself. Write that down. So you say, I am exhilarated. I am proud of myself as I cross that 5-mile marker, having run it in X amount of time, and I'm energized, not about to be taken away on a stretcher. Don't say this part of the stretcher, but I'm energized. Right? So you get those two pieces going together. Manifestation in your life, you've got to get this. It's not a thought. It's not even emotion. It's deeper. And I want to just quickly say this because I want to take you from the pain towards where you want to go to. Whatever you want to manifest in your life, here's the process of how it works. Thought plus emotion. So thought plus emotion. Thought on its own, nobody gets. Emotion on its own will take you all over the place. So the thought, think of it as a rocket. The thought is the course. Okay, this is where we're aiming for. Okay? The emotion. So you have to have the emotion. Okay, that's the fuel. The feeling is the guidance internally. So externally is the thought going there. The emotion is the fuel, and the feeling is the deep guidance internally to keep yourself fueled. Thought plus emotion leading to feeling that taps into your quantum field. That puts it into your resonance field. This is part of the equation for manifestation. There's more to it than that. And it's worth you studying. It's laid out in that book that you held up earlier, Tony, as you know, which is Don't Read This, Your Ego Won't Like It. It's obviously it's in there, the layout of it. But if you really want to understand it, I put something together for Tony and Darren, which is called The Equation for Manifestation. And what it is it's an audio program with proclamations, not affirmations, which are different, and that explains that in there too. We don't have time to go into it. But the equation for manifestation is how to actually do this process for yourself. And along with that, we put together the DVDs of that program that show you the science of it. So not this hokey law of attraction stuff, but the actual quantum physics, how it works, and not the physics that makes your eyes glaze over, but you'll actually get pretty excited about it. Everybody I know, everybody says to me, I have no interest in physics, but you really made this come alive for me. I get it now. I understand how it works. Those two things together then move you towards where you want to go. So you've got to tap into the pain. You got to find the emotional fuel to move forward, and then put that into the equation for manifestation. That's how you change now. Now. Not sitting around moaning, complaining, bitching, or watching Coronation Street or some other telly so that you can distract yourself, or drinking something to distract yourself, or eating, smoking, or any of the other things you do to distract yourself. Do what it takes to sit in the pain first. Then here's where I'm going. And then put that into the system that is the equation for manifestation.
It's on. I was looking at my phone then. www.theequationformanifestation.com. It's on there. So
yeah, it's equationformanifestation.com.
That's
not
it.
Just equationformanifestation.com, and look up how to spell equation, because if the site doesn't show up, it's probably because you spelled equation wrong.
Yeah, that'd be me.
Yeah, well, it was me too.
Yeah, well,
my site, and I couldn't spell equation either.
It must be that excellent education system we both fell out of. So, Dov, listen, seriously, I really, I truly appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. It's like every time I have a conversation with you, which, you know, quite often is over breakfast somewhere. Or
over breakfast in New York when I'm there, usually.
Or Don Julio, as was the last one. Not over Don Julio. Over his. That's a whole different thing. I really want to thank you so much. And if someone wants to reach you or follow you, or follow your teaching, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, obviously, you can find me on Facebook and on Twitter and on LinkedIn. As Tony said at the beginning, I am a mentor. I work one-on-one with individuals. I work with all kinds of leaders, and when I say that, people automatically go CEO and all this, and I do. I work with CEOs, I work with Hollywood people, I work with sports people, but I also work with business people who are entrepreneurs. They're doing their thing, and they go, okay, you know, I want to get to that next level, and I know, like, a fool believes the idea that there's such a thing as a self-made person. Nobody does it alone. Tiger Woods, when he was at the top of his game, had 5 coaches. Anybody who's at the top of their game has coaches. They have people who can guide them. And by the way, you don't need a mentor. You need multiple ones. If you're in Tony's business, you need Tony as your mentor. You need that. But Tony may not be your mentor for something else. You need somebody else for that. I have 5 mentors at all time. And so I have mentors for different areas of my life. I encourage you to do the same thing. So I mentor individuals to go to that next level. But I want to tell you this. I'm not talking about me. I'm just talking about generally. Wherever you're at, I don't know where you're at, but wherever you're at in your life, do not choose a coach or a mentor who is not where you want to be, because they can't take you to where you want to go. If they don't know past that limit in their own experience, in their own life, they can't take you past it. So here's the other thing. I'm not cheap. Let's get that really clear. I'm not cheap. It's not cheap to hire me. And I work with high-level corporations. They pay me. My base minimum is $10,000 a day. That's base minimum. It's often closer to $20,000 a day. That's not what I charge individually. I help people out when it's one-on-one. However, I will tell you that, you know, I'm not your $200 coach. That's not how it works. What I will tell you is this. You need to invest in you. And whatever you can't afford, that's what you need to pay. That's what you need to pay, what you can't afford. Because you have to be stretched. If you're not, you're in your comfort zone. Because if you pay me, I'm just making up a number here. It's not my numbers. Just making up a number. You pay me $5,000. Okay? And you go, I don't have 5. Guess what? You're going to be motivated. You're going to pay that 5 to me. You're going to be motivated because that's my rent. I know that's the first thing I did. When I started in this business, my rent was due on Saturday, and I paid to go to the program on Friday, and I used my rent. I did pay my rent on Saturday, by the way. I found a way. But that was a motivation. Remember I talked about that fire? You've got to create that fire. And so you need to work with a mentor and a guide to move you to that level. So that's part of what I do is there's no pulling punches. I don't waste time. I'm not interested in wasting people's time. I want to get you moving and get you directed. So you can reach out to me through Facebook, through Twitter, through LinkedIn, through those kinds of places. You can also, if you want to know about my corporation, my company and the corporations we serve, our website is Full Monty, like the movie, fullmontyleadership.com. And my blog is my name, dovbaron.com. But fullmontyleadership.com is where you can find all the stuff on us. You can contact us through there. And as I said, you can reach out to me in all kinds of ways. I'm happy to be of service to you in any way that I possibly can, time allowing, of course. Just reach out to me. And please, just, if nothing else, go on Facebook, send me a message, and tell me what you got out of this. Maybe I set a fire under your ass. Maybe you thought I was full of it. Either way, it's okay. Reach out, tell us what you got out of it. And do the same with Tony. Let him know. Because he's, like you said, this is his first interview on Google Hangout. Did a great job, by the way. Tell him, let him know, because here's the thing. We're a feedback system. Human beings, we need feedback. We need that interaction. We need to know if we're on track. So feed that. Let Tony know, hey, you did a great job, man. I loved it. This is what I liked about it. Dov was a knob. I didn't like him, but you were fabulous. Whatever.
Oh, you're already getting the inboxes, NSC. Dov, once again, thanks so much. Live from New York City. I'm easy to find. Real Tony Cohen on just about everything. And realtonycohen.com or work with the realtonycohen.com. And yeah, I appreciate any feedback. You know, it's nice shoes, by the way, Dov. I've just got to say, get the plug.
Of course. Thank you. And for those of you who don't know, you'll have to look on my Facebook page. You'll always find pictures of shoes. I am a shoe whore.
Well, you're half right. Anyway. Guys, thanks so much for listening, so much for watching. If you're watching this on a recording, my take on most of these types of things, the same as the books. Watch it once, watch it again with a pen and paper. Watch it again with a pen and paper, but do it alone. Because I think that the one thing that you may have got of this is those outside inputs you're getting are the ones that are creating those hurdles. Just go sit, stick your earbuds in, do it alone. And again, guys, live from New York City. I got stuff to do right now. Thanks once again, Dov. Have yourselves a wonderful day.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being with us.